you need. Sweet. What is up, guys? My camera just went out, but I am NYC Anime Nerd, and I am joined by uh, the broker, who is everybody's go-to One Piece man in the world. If you don't know him, you don't know One Piece. And I'll let you introduce yourself, Nerd Taku.
Yo, what's up, everyone? I am Nerd Taku. You can find me on pretty much every platform at Nerd Taku. I do a lot of TikToks. I do a lot of YouTube live reactions for One Piece chapters. And I just started doing live reacts for episodes of One Piece. So that is all coming in store, and there will definitely be a few shorts chopped up here and there for the latest reactions for the really good One Piece episodes. So I'm just appreciative to be here with NYC Anime Nerd, and especially Broker again.
The man, the myth, the legend. He might even be Oda himself. There are probably less pictures of Broker than there are Oda.
True story.
Very true.
And I hear Broker's a huge agoraphobic. Guys, so basically what we're doing here is theory craft only. We're not talking about chapters. We're not doing spoilers. We're not reading that. You know, we want to talk about possibilities. I know that there's a lot of communities out there that do this, but sometimes it's hard when there's so many people talking about them at the same time and trying to talk over each other. So on that note, we'll get started. And I just wanted to bring something up that I thought was hilarious. So today, for the live action Broker, I know, bite your tongue for a second. The guy that's playing Crocodile Joe, whatever, I forget his last name, but
Manganello.
Manganello.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you.
There we go. There we go. I don't know if you saw this, but he's talking about how he's like, oh my God, my arm's cut off, and so is Shanks. Like, why are such important characters' arms cut off? And then he's like, the 1,300 episodes of this cartoon. And I was just like, oh, you just buried yourself. Like, you just called it a cartoon. Like, that is not the way to go. And he said he was talking to Oda about this, and I'm like, if you said that to Oda, like, yikes. like, go ahead.
It also shows that he's clearly not read the manga at all.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, he would have led with that. Because obviously, if he knew what was in the manga, he would know what was in the cartoon, quote unquote. So
Yeah.
it just shows that as much as they try and like say, look, you know, we're all massive fans of the property and stuff like that.
They're not.
Yeah. Again, there's no way to prove it, so you just have to you're meant to take their word for it. But I'll believe it. Yeah, whenever.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that I think he's a great cast. I think that he's going to do great as Crocodile, just because, like, I mean, I remember, you know, seeing him back when he was bullying Tobey Maguire back in like 2002 when he was in the original Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You know, and stuff like that. So like he already kind of plays a pretty convincing bully, and he was even, you know, for I don't know, what was it, like a 30-second clip, he was Deathstroke on in the Snyderverse or whatever, you know, and I think
it's that guy.
Yeah.
When you said Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, I was like, it's Flash.
Yeah, it's Flash Thompson.
Yeah, it's Flash Thompson. Yeah, wow.
So
that's a cool cast. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
I was just about to say Flash Gordon. I'm so glad you guys said Flash Thompson before I blurted that out.
Yeah,
dating
so like
himself.
I think that he is a fan of comics. Like but like I don't think that he's delved much into probably like Japanese media too much.
Yeah.
But there's comes a level of like when you're an actor and stuff like that, you do a lot of different things when it comes to like preparing for different roles and stuff like that. And I think that he'll get there. I think that he's just so used to the Western culture of calling things cartoons when they're animated and stuff like that. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt until he proves that he's not that guy. But I mean, just seeing how tall he is and how the height difference between him and Luffy will actually be on screen, it makes me really excited to see him put like the hook through Inaki and like hold him up. Like I think that he'll do a good job. I really do. Like most of the castings that have happened in the live action, I think are solid. So
He's definitely probably the most notable hiring. The one thing that I do like though is I do think that he was asking Oda the right questions. He's like, where did I get this hook? Why do I have it? And where did I get this scar across my face? Which I think are like two important questions, like if I was playing Croc, that's probably what I'd ask him also, even with the knowledge that I had.
This is the problem with it. So this is why I've always said that there are some properties that you just can't turn into live action. And I stand by the fact that One Piece is going to be so difficult to do, so difficult. Everyone knows I'm no fan of the live action. But the problem with so many of the characters is when you're getting actors in, they want to know their characters' backstories. And Oda can't tell them for some of them. He can't give them answers. There is no backstory for Nami. There is very little backstory for Zoro. It's these things that are so important for actors in order to portray a role. And yet he can't even if Oda wanted to give him an answer, Oda couldn't risk it, because if he then goes off and tells somebody else, that information is leaked across the world in one night.
Oh, definitely. But I still think it's a good question. I still think he's asking the right question, though.
Oh, yeah. It's just he can't get an answer to either of them. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, there's NDAs for that and stuff like that. Like there are ways to kind of silence your cast a little bit. Like, but I agree with that to a point. Like, I don't think that he would go as deep as to be like, this is Crocodile's origin as far as we know it. Like, because I mean, we know that, or at least we have a very big assumption that Crocodile got the scar and lost his hand to Whitebeard. And that was why he held such an intense grudge, probably amongst other things. It kind of makes me feel like the duality, or at least like the matching aspect of like Kaido and Moria was Whitebeard to Crocodile. He snuffed him out super quick, or at least they battled and he ruined his dream, and that's why they ended up slinking back into the warlord status and being like, oh, I'm going to take over Alabasta. And then he's like, I need an ancient weapon to even be relevant in the new world moving forward, so I need to find one. Like that to me is like a really cool like comparison for Crocodile.
I really
that
like
I feel
that.
like
I've not heard that before. That's awesome. I really like that a lot. So I don't know if I told you last time, Taku, but I've already told NYC, and obviously we'll speak about it in this pod now. But that actually leads into two theories of mine. So one being Mihawk and like warlords related, and the other being the Crocodile backstory.
Yeah,
I don't think we discussed the Crocodile backstory the last time. I have my own theory, but like again, it's very I guess it's just not my headcanon.
As long as it's not Luffy's mother.
Yeah, as I was gonna say, as long as it's not Croco Mum, then we're all good.
No, it's definitely not that. That's like a very shallow theory.
I don't know about you.
Do you think anyone actually believes that theory, or do you think it's just a meme at this point? I hope no one believes it.
If you're still reading it and about it, it's a meme. But I'll tell you, there were people buying cards at the event I was working as a creator for it, and when I interviewed people and I was like, oh, I have this Croc thing, they're like, they would bring up like, oh, it's Luffy's mom, you know, and obviously I don't know them, so I can't say, but like, I do think that Croc was probably went to Ivanka for a, you know, gender change, and I think that Croc was running from the Holy Knights. I have a theory that he was a Holy Knight, and that's why he ended up with Whitebeard for protection. You know.
Okay,
And,
are we starting on the theories now? That's cool. If you want to dive straight in, I can go on from that one. So
yeah. Let's hear yours, and then after Nerd take it.
Yeah, Taku. Yeah. So my one is that I think that in the same sort of vein. So I think Crocodile was definitely born a woman, and that Crocodile wanted to go. They wanted to go with this slight underdog. So instead of going and joining the Roger Pirates, he wanted to join Roger's rival. He wanted to join the Whitebeard Pirates and help Whitebeard become king. He goes to Whitebeard, says, "Please let me join," and Whitebeard says, "No." Interestingly, it's because Crocodile is a woman, and Oda actually put in an SBS a long time ago now. He said that on the Whitebeard Pirates, there are only male combatants. There are female doctors and nurses, but only men are the combatants because Whitebeard only has sons on his crew. And I think that in that exact vein, Whitebeard says no. Crocodile goes away, tracks down Ivankov, says, "Turn me into a man," gets turned into a man, obviously wants to keep that secret, goes back, says, "Oh, I want to join the Whitebeard Pirates," and Whitebeard's like, "No, I know who you are. You can't just do that. You can't just circumnavigate the rules of my crew." Gets into a scrap, maybe not with Whitebeard himself in the same way that who was it? It was Ben Beckman that fought Kid. So maybe Jozu or Vista then fight Crocodile, and that's how he loses his arm and gets the scar across his face. Or maybe not even fully that. Maybe he scarred his own face to try and further hide his identity. But definitely the way he loses his arm is failing to join the Whitebeard Pirates.
Yeah. I mean, I see it. It would make sense to me. Like I think yours has legs to it. Yeah, I just the only thing about that one for me is though that's different than mine is that we still don't know a lot about the Holy Knights. So like there's possibility that that story could go on while we know a lot about.
Oh no, I was saying no, but it could literally be both. Yours and mine overlap perfectly.
Yeah.
It wants again. You could have it that he wanted to get some form of defense. He wanted to have someone fight in his corner. Wanted to join the Whitebeard Pirates to hide from the Holy Knights, and then still gets turned down exactly the same way.
And part of the reason why I also think this is because how many pirates go from being like a pirate to like stop really pirating like while they're still in their prime? He became a mob boss casino, manager. Like why, like it's not like he was weak at that point or anything. There was, so why stop doing that and go, change? But Nerd, let's hear what you think about.
So there's definitely some weight to it. The only thing that I would say is he does have technically one woman on his crew that is a combatant.
I can answer that with
Let him finish. Let him finish, Broker. Let him finish. Let him finish.
Sorry. Yeah. I've got an answer to that.
You're right. It is Whitey Bay, and now it does seem like she was the captain of her own crew and then fell in line under him. So unless there's something else that you want to add.
Yeah, so it's actually that. It's that and something else. So this is one of those things. I know we're going to talk about it later on, but Whitey Bay is originally an anime-based character. So at Marineford, Whitey Bay isn't there in the manga. She's like, as you say, one of the what do you call it, Whitebeard allied captains, but she's not actually a member of the Whitebeard Pirates. That's something that is like, I think they wanted to put, because she was quite an attractive character and she was a woman. Again, this is where sometimes the anime aren't fully informed of the relevance or unrelevance of certain characters. But if you follow the manga, Whitey Bay isn't even shown, I don't think, at Whitebeard's and Ace's funeral.
See, now I need to go look this up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what? I don't need to, because if Broker's saying it, he probably has the panel on speed dial.
I'm just looking for. I'm literally looking for it now. The SBS thing that I can't think. Oda wrote. Let me see if I can find it for you.
So
yeah, I've got it here.
Yeah.
Can I put it anywhere here? Or?
If you want to send,
Oh, I can put it in the chat.
yeah, that you can do.
There we go. That links you to the SBS itself, which obviously then people have analyzed on Reddit. But yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
Wait, did you drop it in the chat, Broker?
Yeah, it's in the text chat there. Can you not see it?
I see it.
Really?
And I'll send it directly to.
Oh, yeah. I see it. Excuse me.
It's all right. No worries.
Oh, interesting.
I found it interesting enough that this SBS came out just after Marineford, so obviously it was relevant enough that he felt he needed to make note of it in the SBS immediately following Marineford in the manga.
Yeah, which I guess is probably important, because if you're gonna be talking about, Whitebeard and his crew, it's like you better, get, the information out there while like it's somewhat relevant,
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Any more feelings before we head off? There's a few theories that I want to discuss, and then I asked you guys to bring some theories of your own before
I have as many as you want.
that I'm very well aware about.
Yeah, I can also I also maybe want to, I think Broker's heard it before, but I will delve into, or at least tell you my crocodile theory as well.
Oh yeah, please.
As far
I'm so sorry. I thought you
No, you're good. So my theory is kind of, I feel like mine's more far-fetched if I'm being honest, but so my theory centers around Crocodile also being a female at first, but it centers around her at the time being Roger's long lost daughter. So when we meet Roger in the past, we only see him once he's decently into adulthood, when he finally finds Rayleigh in that boat. But he should have, or at least probably was pirating or go sailing from island to island beforehand. So it would almost make sense that he would have found someone either along his journey from island to island, or
he
beforehand.
Does like them hugs. he does. Them hugs.
Yeah,
they all do.
He's got one of probably the greatest pull rates, of any pirate. So the idea of him accidentally getting one of these women knocked up that he was messing around with is probably pretty high, I'd imagine. Roger was a pirate in every sense of the word, so it would make sense that he would be after some booty. And so I think
that's why he laughs at the One Piece.
Yeah, he was like, I won't be around to raise any of my kids. But no, he got someone knocked up, and then he left on his journey, and the mom was left to raise Crocodile as a child. But when Crocodile got older, the mom told her, hey, your father is Gold D. Roger, the man that's going to be executed, after he was caught by the Marines. So what happens? Crocodile shows up to the execution hoping to see her father one last time. That's why we never see Crocodile's face in chapter 0, because at that time it was a she. So what does any good, pirate's daughter do? She tries to follow in her father's footsteps. And in doing so, she challenges what everyone in the world thinks is the greatest rival to Roger, Whitebeard, and loses insanely. And in those moments, she found out about the thing that he had said to Rayleigh and probably Whitebeard after they returned Odin, and they had their last encounter, Whitebeard and Roger. Roger said to Rayleigh himself, the person who's going to find the One Piece will be my son. And so she took that to heart, found Ivankov, and turned into a man to fulfill the destiny that her dad had laid before her, because no one else in the world knew about Ace. So she thought she was the sole thing that would be
valid.
Exactly.
Dude, that has legs to it.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the first time I've heard that, and
that's really good.
That's really, really, really good.
It gets deeper. So
good.
So what's even crazier about this is, right? So this is when, Luffy goes and beats Crocodile. And what is he trying to do? He's trying to get an ancient weapon, meaning that there's a possibility that in all of this, Crocodile discovered at the end of Laugh Tale, you need Joy Boy and you need 3 ancient weapons to fulfill the prophecy of the One Piece and do what Joy Boy possibly couldn't do when he had none of the ancient weapons, but he had just himself against the world government. So Crocodile went to Alabasta to try and get Pluton so he could get one of the ancient weapons so he can move to the New World and find the rest of them and make his way to Laugh Tale. The reason why I say that Crocodile had the ambition to become the Pirate King is in one of the cover stories, you see Crocodile, who could have been brought out of the prison by Miss Golden Week when they infiltrated and took the rest of Baroque Works. Him and Mr. One stayed back, and she used her power, and it was called like Ideal Future or something like that, where it showed what everyone really truly wanted to be.
Yeah.
And Crocodile was dressed up exactly like Roger. Like, so
like your dad. Like who doesn't as a kid want to be their dad?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like everybody sees their dad as like the most perfect person until you hit 17, and then you're like, wow.
Yeah. And especially to be told that your dad was the greatest pirate to ever live. Like, you want to follow in those footsteps.
Big ambitions.
Exactly. So it continues from there. So Crocodile gets locked up and impelled down, and the only person that can rescue him is someone he hates more than anything. But he wants to leave, so him and Mr. One go with. When Luffy reveals who Ace's dad is on the ship in Impel from Impel down to Marineford,
wow.
Crocodile is not there to hear that Gold D. Roger is Ace's dad and that Monkey D. Dragon is actually Luffy's dad. But when they show up to Marineford and Crocodile attacks Whitebeard, it's to try and get even for his dad and for the scar in losing his hand. Then they blatantly say that Ace is Whitebeard's Ace is Gold D. Rogers' son. And who's the first person to step in and stop Ace from getting defeated or killed in front of everyone? It's Crocodile. He stops him because that's his half brother.
Wow. Sorry, I'm just looking this up at the same time.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
That's why I keep looking down. But that is really good.
It's great.
Like, listen, don't go on the internet spreading that because Oda's team will find it and they'll change
Yeah.
the story. That's the thing. Like, you're probably right, and like they'll go ahead and change it because they never want anyone's
out of spite.
good theory. Yeah, like good theory to be right.
So what's even crazier is, so he fights Mihawk, he fights Doflamingo, he fights all of these people, and then Ace still dies. But what was Ace's last wish? To save Luffy. And who's the one person that stops Luffy from getting killed when Jinbei's trying to protect him and fights Akainu?
Oh yeah,
Crocodile.
Crocodile is the MVP of Marineford. I've said it so many times.
Easily.
Easily.
And he has no reason to help Luffy.
None.
If
None
anything, he has the antithesis of that. He's like, yo, you beat the hell out of me, ruined my years long plan to take over Alabasta. And then like all of a sudden he's switching sides and trying to fight Akainu. Like that just doesn't make any sense unless he had the motivation to do so because he just watched his half brother get murdered. The only family he has left in the world.
Right, if you turn out to be right, I will actually put Marineford, instead of being 3 out of 10, I'll put it up to a 5. If you're right.
No. I hate that you say that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I will fight you both on this. Marineford is a beautiful spectacle, but in terms of actually like plot holes and a few like things that don't make a lot of sense, Marineford's got lots of holes in it. Lots of holes.
I mean,
spectacle-wise, it's great. Spectacle-wise, it's great. But just in terms of like any of the fights don't make sense. Like Whitebeard should be dead. He has half his brain melted off. You know, it's just it just bothers me because people put it on such a high pedestal and say that it's great writing, but it's great spectacle rather than great writing. Great writing is Alabasta. Alabasta is great writing.
Well, yeah. I mean. Yeah,
I think it has great moments of writing.
Yes,
but there's definitely I 100% agree.
Alabasta or Marineford?
No, Marineford. So
Marineford.
That's what I'm saying. If you're right, that's what I'm saying. That's why it puts Marineford up in my thing because it would fill in some of those gaps without just being retcons.
So it believe it or not, it gets a little bit deeper than this. So
keep going.
I do believe it. I love
so one of the things that's really insane about all this is there is, I forget, I would have to look it up, but there's also a cover story where Oda does what he says is a reader submission, and it was like Crocodile on the front cover with like ducks going like he has like holes in him for like sand and like there's like ducks sunbathing or whatever. But the name of the chapter is A Woman's Lie. And so like it's hinting at the fact that, you know, Crocodile was a woman. He lied about being a man, you know, and with everything that, you know, he has talked about, you know, and everything that he's done has been all towards what he would consider his goal of becoming Pirate King. Now, who was the first person that he called when stuff started teeing off with the world government, and who did he ally himself with? He allied himself with Mihawk. He called him and was like, hey, we go way back. Like we should form something. And Buggy just so happened to be involved in that after the fact because he owed Crocodile money. But what do all those people have in common? Everyone thinks that Rayleigh and Shaggy's kid is Mihawk. Well, Mihawk, Rayleigh, the second hand to the Pirate King, and the Pirate King himself, their kids teamed up with the apprentice from that same ship, no less. I think that there's a deeper link between all three of them having to do with Roger and the Roger Pirates than we even see on the surface. So that is my thing.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, that's gold. That's like one of the better, longer theories that overlaps so much of so many different arcs that to piece that together is like really that's it's really good. It's really, really good. I feel like I don't even want to say any of my theories at this point. Like that one was just like golden. Like when you hear some and you're like, okay, this guy's just like theory crafting, and then you hear like one
Yeah.
that's like, okay, like this has legs, like this can really stand, like like I actually don't see a better picture,
I
Like,
mean, it would be really cool. That would be a huge W because I've been talking
Yeah.
about this since Cross Guild was introduced.
How do you feel about Cross Guild? How do both of you guys feel about Cross Guild since you just brought it up before?
I think Cross Guild is great. I do. I think Cross Guild is great. I think that their mission is great. Them putting bounties on Marines is so cool. Like, it is such a power shift, like in the dynamic of One Piece, because Marines used to just be able to forge ahead and only have to worry about pirates. But now they have to look over their backs to make sure that citizens aren't killing them. Like it really has switched up a lot when it comes to the world.
To stabilize the world.
Yeah, and it's really, really cool to see Buggy actually fail upwards so much so that he becomes an emperor. He's always talked a big game about doing these things, and the world is just handing it to him. So I think that, obviously Buggy is Buggy is the pawn. Mihawk's the real Yonko, if we're being real. I think Crocodile is actually severely underrated because I think he is incredibly strong. He just doesn't he didn't utilize hockey and didn't, after your will is broken, similar to Moria, who was boxing with Kaido, he just doesn't, he had his will broken, and that's why he was so easily dealt with. But again, as soon as he realized what he was fighting for after seeing his ideal transformation when he was in prison, he realized, oh, I have to get out of this prison because I have bigger things to do. I have to fulfill what my father set out to do. And that's why I think that Crocodile will showcase immense hockey once he actually goes and fights.
I would really appreciate it, just to continue from that, I'd really appreciate just one dialogue box from like a Rayleigh flashback or something, where we get confirmation that we've already been told that in order to make yourself stronger, you need to be in really tough fights. But the reverse is also true. If you don't keep fighting, you will get weaker really quickly. Like, you need to be on top of things. You can't just stay at a level of strength and expect that to last. Because then it explains why Mihawk is still traveling the seas. He's not done. He's still willing to fight people because he needs to stay at the top of his game in terms of hockey usage.
Yeah, so I know we were talking about this the other day, but obviously everyone wasn't there. But I think that's why a lot of people glaze the older pirates, because it was constant battle between, and I know obviously without panels you can't prove anything, right? But we know that there was battles between, or duels we can say, between top pirates constantly.
Look at the Whitebeard pirates and the Roger pirates in the Odin flashback. They were friends. Why would they fight? Because they still need to stay on top of the game. They might not have been trying to kill each other, but fights to keep yourself sharp, to keep your haki at its top level that it needs to be.
Exactly. And I think that's why the older pirates do deserve the glaze that they get, even if we don't know or haven't seen much.
And we could literally get that in it again when Luffy does again meet Crocodile. We can find out, we'll get like a flashback then of Luffy being reminded where he got told that some pirates out there that used to be powerful have let themselves go because they are not continuing to keep up that level of skill. And the Crocodile and Moria, like you say, are both perfect examples of that.
Hey, Broker, do you see the comment in the chat? You want to take this one?
No, where am I looking? Oh, comments, 1 second. Kaio Tim. So, couldn't you train Haki through non-battle means? I know that's how you level up, but if you already leveled up, could you? I suppose I think that would keep skill up, but I don't think it would keep Haki up because you're. I suppose maybe that's why when we had the flashback to Garp and Kuzan, they were told not to use Haki. So I think there's different ways to become strong, but there's also different ways to keep your Haki usage up. That it's all like Zoro constantly trains his strength. We see him do that, but he also trains Haki when he's fighting these strong opponents.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So I have two different thoughts when it comes to it. I almost feel as though Haki is like a level, you know, like if you were to grind in an RPG, once you reach that level, you know, I think that maybe it can dwindle, but also I feel as though your mind state is everything because will is what Haki is. So if you have your will or you know, and that could be as simple as your will to achieve your dream, your will to live, your will to move on, your will to do any of those things. If any of that is affected, it can essentially nerf you. Like you could go from being, you know, a level 99 and the minute your dreams crushed, you know, like Moria, I would say, you know, let's just say he was boxing even with Kaido back when Odin and him, you know, first squared off on Wano. I think that in his dream, because Kaido killed his whole crew, that was the whole point of him wanting a zombie crew, was because his whole crew died, and those were all of his friends and all of the people that were going to propel him to achieve his dream, because he was also at Roger's execution. He also had dreams of becoming Pirate King, but Kaido crushed that dream. That killed his will.
Yeah.
And therefore, he didn't even care about being Pirate King anymore. He just wanted to build his zombie army and then try and take it with quantity over quality.
Yeah.
So,
go on. Sorry.
Well, I was just saying, I think that that's a huge factor when it comes to it. You know, I think that that's why Kuzan looked so weak against Garp in comparison, because Kuzan really didn't have the will to kill his master. Like, you know, I feel like there's so much that goes into the fact that the power system is based upon will that can hinder or nerf. The same reason why Kizaru was kind of easily beaten by Luffy, Egghead, because he didn't really have the will, because he just, you know, almost killed one of his best friends in Sentomaru, and then proceeded to then kill his best friend in Vegapunk, and he just didn't have it in him.
Yeah.
Do you think Kizaru knew that Vegapunk had like this backup life thing? I really hope so.
I think so.
Yeah, I think it's
because the way that
he was around him for years, wasn't he? He was his bodyguard for years.
Exactly.
I think that he thought that maybe Vegapunk was smart enough to have contingencies, but I don't think that he knew per se what it was. So I think that he, and the reason I think that is because he wouldn't have been so broken up about it to yell at Akainu over the phone like that had he not thought that he actually killed his best friend.
See, I thought that he was trying to sell the lie so that the Urusei and Akainu definitely thought that Vegapunk was dead. I think he was trying to cover for his friend. But I say either one can be true. I mean, it's like just a difference of opinion on why.
Yeah.
But like, also though, like just to play the opposite, like he just took down Sentomaru. Like I can only imagine like it gets easier killing your friends once you've killed like one of them. Like, you know, like what's the second one? You know, like you gotta, you know, like I wouldn't know.
Yeah, the problem is they got progressively worse. Like he was closer-ish with Sentomaru, but he was super close to Vegapunk.
But it was also a different relationship, though. in my opinion, it was a different relationship. So, like different undertones. But yes, I do think he was probably closer with, not probably, he definitely was closer with Vega. But
Yeah.
I do think that there are undertones on, best friends
Yeah.
versus like someone that idolizes you and looks
Yeah,
at
they were
you like a
together
dad.
a lot longer as well, because like I said, they were together. Vegapunk and Kizaru were together for well over 2 decades.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any final words on Vegapunk or hockey base form?
I
Before,
mean,
I mean, yeah,
Vegapunk should have stayed dead.
Yeah, same. Yeah, same. It's the Gandalf effect, isn't it? Like from Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings, Gandalf should have stayed there. They should never have brought Gandalf back. It's the same with Vegapunk, and I think that the only reason they've done it is because inevitably Vegapunk is going to join the Revs.
listen, I'd agree with you guys if we didn't get such a short actual time with Vegapunk. Like if it was longer and it
Oh,
wasn't just like,
I quite liked that fact. I quite liked the fact that this character that's been built up so much is just there for such a brief period. It's like again, they call it a brief candle, don't they? It's just they're there and then they're gone. It's the fragility of a war. Like we're getting to like the really high stakes level of One Piece now. Not every character can survive. There's going to be deaths.
no, definitely, and I think that it's important that there is because it adds dimension to a story, and I just think that they personally like I would have liked to hear more of the flashbacks from him than from other people.
We could have had that in like almost like what's the visual Dendemushi, like the recordings. I would have been
Yeah,
happy
yeah,
to have like all of these recordings, of like information that Vegapunk left without him himself being alive.
true.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I would take it that way. Definitely, I could take it that way for sure.
See,
I'd be
I thought that was why all of the satellites were being killed, so there was no link back to Vegapunk.
I thought that there was always going to be one sole survivor, Vegapunk
Oh yeah,
satellite.
sorry, yes,
And
sorry, yeah, York is what I thought. Yeah, same here. I thought it would have been York.
yeah, well, so I meant good version. I didn't
Oh
think
really?
just
Oh,
York.
interesting.
I always thought that Lilith or Shaka was going to be the survivor, even at the
Oh,
beginning,
too.
before
Yeah.
I
Shaka
thought
was
Lilith.
murdered.
I really
Because
thought Lilith was
I
gonna
didn't
be-
think Oda was going to kill off Shaka because he had the coolest design.
Oh,
and-
what's the
Or,
name of that band? What's that band?
Daft Punk.
Daft Punk.
oh.
Yes, thank
Yeah.
you. Yes.
Orapunk, you mean?
Yeah. I was like, I was super, I love Shaka's design. I thought it was incredible. I thought if anyone was going to survive, it was going to be him, and he was going to be the sole survivor with the most knowledge that would have joined the Revs.
Cool.
But now that all of them are alive, and then
Yeah.
the Stella can even be brought back, it also just like reminds me of how, the stakes are not as high as I want them to be. And I get it,
Yeah.
like One Piece, a lot of people don't die. And I get it. And I'm perfectly okay with a lot of them. But we're in the
there's actually a legal reason for that, funnily enough. So
Mm.
because of the
Ooh.
way that One Piece is marketed in Japan, so like you've got the like the system like R-rated movies, the alphabet system for like movies and stuff in the West. Japan has a similar thing for manga, which is why Dragon Ball didn't have deaths. They had people being revived with the Dragon Balls. That was their little like get out of jail free card to get around it. It's also why, if everyone goes back and remembers, when the original episodes of the anime for Whitebeard and Ace's death were on, they were actually on at a later time at night. They had to be in the anime.
Well, Broker, I was just about to say that since they changed the time, I know we're talking about the anime more than, or I mean, the manga more than the anime, but part of the reason why they switched the time slot
Yeah,
is
that's what I was going to bring up next.
censorship.
If you read the rest of that article, they're also changing the ranking of the manga. The manga is now going to be given that extra rating, so it means
Exactly.
we'll be seeing more actual blood and stuff in the anime as well. And it does mean that now characters are going to die. And
Yeah.
obviously, you can understand originally, because it was a shonen battle manga, they wanted to get that sort of like young, like, preteen to teenage boy sort of audience. But
Yeah,
now
then we all
those
grew
same
up.
people have those same people have grown up now, and it's like Harry Potter. The films got darker as they went on and stuff like that. Which again, I do really appreciate, because it does mean now there is a chance of actually higher stakes.
And I think it'll get there. I think we probably have a little ways to go till it's going to be like really, like.
There's definitely going to be a lot of deaths during the final war. Like,
definitely.
I would be shocked if every member of the Blackbeard Pirates didn't die. No prison time for them. I honestly believe every single one dies.
That's better than like everybody getting a devil fruit or something. Like, I just hate hearing that. But speaking of that, who do you think Straw Hat wise deserves the next power up?
Usopp. 100%. At this point, it has to be. See, I as I've told a few people, especially I think you, Nurtaku, I was heartbroken when we had that almost like step back for Usopp in terms of his character development at Wano. We had just had Usopp's proudest moment at Dressrosa. Dressrosa, when he's on top of that building, it's not just what he does. At that point, obviously, we then find out that the people weren't there to harm him. They were there to help the king. But Usopp honestly believed his life was in danger. He honestly believed that he was going to get killed by this crowd, but that before he died, he was going to try and save Luffy's life. And he has the best line that Usopp's ever had. He says, "Luffy, I don't even care if you notice me. I just don't ever want to see the seas without you on them." And then he saves him and stuff like that. It's Usopp's proudest moment of the whole series. It's perfect. And then we get the whole thing where at Wano he's thinking to himself, "Oh, Nami, just lie and say that Luffy won't be Pirate King." It's just such a step back. It just broke my heart, because I know that Usopp's dream is obviously the easiest to fulfill in terms of like plot development wise. He can become brave at any point, so they're trying to save it for the end where he's a brave warrior of the sea. But it doesn't mean at the same time he has to think these cowardly things. He can do things and then act in a different way. I mean, to go into like theories and stuff, it wasn't as much a theory, but what I would have loved to have seen instead is Usopp lie to Ulti and say Luffy won't become Pirate King, and then when Ulti picks up Nami and asks her to do the same, we see Usopp fire like a giant attack at Ulti, and it's like, "Don't you know anything about me? I'm a liar." And that's it. He lies to Ulti. He lies. It's like, that would have been brilliant to me, because it fits perfectly within Usopp's character, and there's no need to then backpedal, I suppose. It's like, how many times can we have Usopp be brave and then be a coward again? Like Fishman Island. Usopp was brave. He fought that guy and didn't have any like qualms about it. And then Punk Hazard, he's scared of everyone again.
Well, I mean, I could definitely. I don't think he's the next one. I'll get into after we hear what Taku has to say. But it would kind of make sense with like the fake 500-pound hammer and then the paper mache hammer, and then
that's my thing on the power up. I really hope that Usopp gets that hammer of Loki's, and what was the name of the owl woman that can make the books really big? You know who I mean, though, right? Yeah, I think it would be cool if she can also make things smaller, and that Loki gives that hammer to Usopp as like not like a reward, of like a respect of what Usopp will later do at Egghead. Like, I really want Usopp to do something really brave. Like, what's the name of the character, the God's Knight, that can make all people's fears come to life?
I'm gonna get into that after.
Oh, okay. I'll come. Yeah. I'll
because it kind of fits into my the dream one you're talking about, right?
Who's that?
Killing him.
I think that's going to be Usopp's opponent. That will be the one that Usopp defeats on his own.
See, I disagree with you there, but
That's what I only think it because it's fear, and the opposite to fear is bravery. Like to have Usopp see all of his fears physically come to life right in front of him, and then overcome those fears. That would just be such a big step up for Usopp.
All right, I'll get into mine, and then we'll Taku can tell us who he thinks gets the next power up. So I think Brook's gonna fight Killingham, and from the last chapter, Brook sees an animated Dragier, and he says, "A giant me." But what if that isn't a joke? A Dragier is a reanimated corpse that has to die twice to literally be called a Dragier. So what Dragiers can do is they can invade dreams, make curses. So to me, I see it being more of a dream versus dream than bravery versus fear type of thing. And I see Brook getting the next power up. He's been put off for so long, story wise. I mean, like the last like really cool feat, in my opinion, is like when he went up against Big Mom. You know, like Whole Cake Island. That was like the last part when I was like, "F yeah, Brook," you know. So.
But it's been even longer for Usopp. That's what I'm saying. Usopp's is Dressrosa. Usopp's is even before that.
Yeah, but Usopp isn't a background character, and I'm not saying Brook is.
No,
but
I get what you mean. Yeah, he's been less. There's less to him character development wise. I have no problem with both of them getting a power up, but Elbaf and Usopp have been linked for so long.
Yeah.
This Little Garden, that if there's not a payoff to it, my mind would be blown in the same way that we didn't get Zoro backstory in Wano.
Yeah, true. And also, like, I know it's like stupid, but like, you know how like when Sanji and Zoro were like hunting for the food, and they like were like doing moves together and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I think about now. So if Usopp got Ragnar, and Luffy uses Red Hawk, it'd be Ragnarok if they used them together. And you know, if you put
I was
together,
literally going to say that. You've taken my notes away.
so Ragnarok, Elbaf, just that mythology, like you know, like
I was going to say it was. I was going to say it could be a joint attack.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's going to be a joint attack between them.
That was my take.
And
which would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I would love that, and it makes sense because they say, you know, like the fire and the lightning with the tree, and so like, what if they have to do something to, you know, like take out a branch of the tree for whatever reason? Now Red Hawk.
Well, just to stop a fire spreading or something. Like you could have a building that the Giants keep secret that's like full of explosives, and if the fire spreads to it, then everything goes up, and it could destroy all of Elbaf. Like it would be cool if the Giants were secretly preparing for war, and they'd been building up this.
They have like an armory.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, and I just think like it'd be cool because like I feel like Brook would get like kind of like a dark awakening, and I think that would, you know, just like, to me I see it. I know Usopp's too, but I do think Usopp is gonna have also moments like in the final battle where like, you know, like God Usopp is looked at, like, because, you know, like if everyone's going to be there, there's going to be people that are like, oh, it's God Usopp, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. But what about you, Taku? Who do you think is deserving of the next power up in the Straw Hat?
So I definitely think it is Usopp. Elbaf is supposed to be his arc. Like, and the reason I think that he's fighting Killingham and how he's going to beat Killingham isn't going to be like it's going to be like a Brave Warrior of the Sea moment, but it's going to be who he is the reason why he defeats Killingham. I think that what's going to happen is Killingham's going to try and take what Usopp fears most out of his head. And I think there's going to be too much for Killingham to actually be able to use his power.
Oh, like a Perona thing.
Exactly.
That's
It's so smart.
That's so
And
Taku, you're not welcome. You're not welcome back next week. You're just golden. You're golden this week.
That would be so again. The only reason I think they won't do it that way is because of the Perona thing. But I would love to see it.
Well, I think that that's only going to be like part of the battle, right? I think that Killingham's going to be like, I'm going to use my power to take what you fear most. And there's going to be so much that it's going to overload his awakening and he's not going to be able to use it. And then
I have a way that it could make it work with both, so it's not too much like Perona thing. You could have it so that because there's so much fear for Usopp, he's not able to make anyone else's fear. So he makes all of Usopp's fears, but he can't do it to anyone else because there's so many being done. They're all reserved for Usopp.
Yeah, or like it's the way I thought of it was like he tries to pull out all the fears, similar to how like you remember when he tells Sommers, he's like, hey, think of salt, and then he pulls the salt out of like the little like brain, like basically like the little thought bubble. But when Usopp's thought bubble comes up, it's just so filled to the brim that he can't pull anything out because like it's all stuck because like there's just so much of it. And it overloads his awakening because he's got the like Hagoromo scarf thing. He's awakened.
I want to bring this up later, but so don't let me forget about the Hagoromo scarf because I always forget what it's called.
Yeah, and so it eventually like his power can't work against Usopp at all, so he has to revert into his regular Zoan form, and that gives Usopp the edge, and then he's able to power through and actually KO Killingham. And by doing that, it gets rid of the rest of the nightmares that are plaguing the Elbaf. And so he ends up becoming a brave warrior by not just accepting his fears because he knows that he has them and it ends up being a strength of his, but it also saves the rest of Elbaf from the nightmares. And the way that he like KOs Killingham is by utilizing some of the like the forestry around because he uses pop greens. Yeah. And I think that when he uses them inside or on the Atom Tree, it does the same thing that it does with everything else and makes them so much bigger. And he gets the power through that. And then he ends up learning to cultivate pop greens through Atom Wood, or at least like through the soil of Elbaf, to make things so much bigger and so much stronger that it gives him that power up. I do believe there's also an avenue for the whole Ragnir thing. And I understand like the correlation between like Red Rock and Ragnir that makes Ragnarok. But I truly believe, and I think that we'll come to see this, is Ragnir is just Ragnarok and Mjolnir put together. Yeah. And eventually I think Usopp will wield it. And the reason being is you need to have pure intentions when you wield it. And that's why Harudin and like every other giant can't do it, because they don't have the same pure intentions that Usopp and Loki actually have.
Yeah, that's what I was going to come on to next.
So that's my thought.
Just quickly to add.
Broker, one second. So do you think, and this can just be yes or no, we don't have to dive deep into it. Do you think we can get 2 Straw Hats getting 2 power-ups in this arc?
Absolutely. I thought that the other one would probably be Frankie, to be honest. Like, you know, he would spend a little bit of time with Vegapunk through Lilith and stuff like that. Or Lilith would hand over to Frankie some of her blueprints for the machine animals she built and stuff like that.
Okay. What about you? Yes, no? Or does it take away from
No, I think everyone will probably get some form of boost in Elbaf. I think that it only makes sense because everyone's going to need to level up. My thing is, I think Brook gets his shine a little bit later. And the reason why I think that is, I think that Brooke needs to talk about the correlation that I believe exists eventually between like between Enma being like the Grim Reaper and the thing that we saw at Wano. But I also think that we need to learn more about Brooke's backstory, and I think that involves learning about God Value and his God Valley and his connection to it.
Makes sense. Broker, did you want to touch on this before I bring up a related question?
So only to say on the Turkish thing about is it Killingham, the name of the guy, the field one? I thought when you said pop greens, I thought how funny would it be if Killingham has botanophobia, a fear of plants, and that when Usopp is fighting back, he's like all these plants and pop greens. We see this man that's meant to be the embodiment of everyone's fears, and he has such a weird, like bizarre, childish fear. It's like plants and stuff like that. That would be very funny to me.
Well, it's actually kind of funny you say that, because when he uses that power, isn't it like thorns around their heads? Like that's how they depict it. Like nobody else can see them, only he can. But like
that was Summer's power.
Summer's power. Yeah.
Don't worry. Okay. So speaking of the Holy Knights, God's Knights, all of the Knights. Gunko, is it Kuma's late wife, Ginny, or is it a daughter of Ginny, or is it a clone? How do you guys feel about that? If you had to pick one, which one would it be? None of them. I think there's things that point to it, like the bandages with the disease, but that could also be, clone research, like the body parts didn't come out right. There's scars that they had to cover up, maybe torturing Ginny, and that's why she has the bandages. But how do you guys feel about that?
So this was what I was talking to you about earlier, Taku. This is mine and your theory that we literally crafted together on that stream we did together, where we think that she's an amputee, that she doesn't have all of her limbs, that for whatever reason they have been removed. Again, I like I was talking to you earlier, NYC, I think now that it's due to torture. I think that is Ginny, whether it's a clone or whatever, and that in order to force her to stop being a member of the Revs, they tortured her, they cut her limbs off. And that was what finally convinced her, if she has been fully convinced, obviously that's another sort of topic, but that why she now fights for the Holy Knights is that reason. Like, again, it may be, like you say, it could have been the what was it, the sapphire disease?
Yeah.
And that they thought the only way to stop it spreading is to, like, cut off the limbs, like with necrotizing fasciitis in the real world.
Yeah.
That would just be, I would find that fascinating to see that.
Or it could be similar to like gangrene and stuff like that.
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah, and so there's only one pushback I have to that now from seeing, I believe it was like a few chapters ago. She does have one hand. She has one full arm and hand because she used it after removing her bandages to summon the Sommers and Killingham.
Oh, there you go.
That's the circle.
It doesn't need to be she's lost all her limbs. Like I said, you think that if you're torturing somebody into submission, you're not going to have to take all 4 limbs off before they say, cry uncle. It's similar to Kuzan. It's like Kuzan. Kuzan lost lost his leg, but he uses his devil fruit to fill in the gaps. I think it's the same with Ginny. With Gunko.
An arrow as like an arm and 5 fingers. Like that's definitely a possibility. That it could just be drawn as a hand, and like when we really get into it, we could see. But yes, I was going to bring that up. So I mean I like it. I think that like Kuma's story is such a big part, and I think that so many people enjoyed it that like I feel like Oda does this or is forced to do this when like people like stuff respond well to stuff now. He's like forced to kind of make story for it. And so that's part of the reason why I think also it could be it. It's unfortunate that it has to be that way, but that's also what I see why it could be Ginny or clone of Ginny or something.
So I know this sounds really weird, but we were talking earlier about, some things being too dark for One Piece. The one that's always thought, "Ooh, that's a bit risque" to me was the idea of Ginny being raped by this celestial dragon she was forced to marry, and that at least if they tortured her into like, betraying
Damn
the
it, bro.
Rev. I said, no, but at least if they tortured her to betraying the Revs and then she decided to betray them and then she fathers the child, so mothers the child, at least that would be slightly better. It's still bad, but it's that difference between willingness under duress and being completely unwilling.
Yeah.
Yeah. It also like I would need to see like because when Ginny was taken by Kuma, I want to say it was and like he found her body per se, which may not have even been her body, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's what,
Like we never really see anything. It's just someone that's covered in sapphire scales. So like that could have just been
could have been anyone. Yeah, exactly. That's
But
it.
but that also leaves the option. Sorry to interrupt, Broker, who interrupted you.
Sorry. Oh,
but
I'm bad for it. Just tell me to shut
guys,
up.
if you don't know Broker, you're going to get interrupted, and you will learn this over the next few weeks. But that's the point. Like it's like she could be anywhere, But go on, finish. I'm sorry about that.
No, just like I mean, she also there's it looks like Gunko is young, and maybe that's just like a product of having like Emu's power or something like that. Like you never quite know, just because of the fact that like she also has two different eye colors, which sometimes happens based upon trauma, which could be torturing and stuff like that. People's minds break in animes all the time when they go through some stressful thing. And so there's definitely the possibility, but she does look young, but we only see her eyes. So we really don't know what she looks like.
Yeah.
There was also someone who said something about like what happens if, Gunko is actually another, like a sister to Bonnie that's older. And when she first got caught originally, that's when a celestial dragon who just so happens to be Shamrock was the one who took Ginny in to be his wife at the time. And then that's why him and Gunko are always traveling together and stuff like that, because it's actually his illegitimate daughter, but he doesn't treat her any differently than any of the other God's Knights. And because he had her with a commoner, and that's why she also doesn't have the saint in her name, because she's not the product of actual celestial dragons. She's a product of one celestial dragon and a lower born.
So the only bite back at that is if wouldn't he, like, to put this in nice terms, wouldn't he have gotten the disease from shagging her mom then, though? Because like if it passes, if it's like that, like close contact, you get it? Like,
here's the thing. I don't think that celestial dragons and or God's Knights especially are subject to the normal diseases of the world.
And that's an easy way to write that. Well, yeah.
I get it. You could have your cake and eat it too, because remember, at Egghead, we find out that clones they still have memories of the people they're cloned from, like the Boa one did. Yeah, so that you could have the clone of Ginny have been like, even when they cloned her, she still refused to, betray the Revs, and that's why they then tortured the clone.
So one thing about Usopp that I forgot to touch on that I wanted to. So I originally thought that Usopp was actually going to fight Shamrock because early on he lied about fighting a Cerberus, and then he ran away from fighting a three-headed dog. And so now it would be like, and like the rule of threes, just like the hammer, like it's starting to add up. So like eventually, like I just wanted to put that in there. Like at first I thought it, but it's got to be Zoro, right?
Yeah,
It's got three sword style.
This is what me and literally I predicted this
Yeah.
on live on Taku stream, even before the spoilers and stuff had come out. It was like I thought that. So my original thinking was that Shamrock was going to be a Zoro fight, not because of like necessarily just a three sword style thing, but because in the chapters before that, every time Luffy was mentioning Shanks, we had a little cutaway, and it was a Zoro reaction shot, that little like hashtag sort of thing that it's put. It's like it would just always look over, and the way I explained that away was, now that Zoro is like, he knows he's on that commander level, he knows he was able to scar Kaido. It's like, look, I need to know how far I still have to go before I'm able to fight Mihawk, and the best way to do that is to fight Shanks, which was his old opponent.
Also, doesn't like in like mythology, doesn't like Cerberus guard hell?
Hell, yes, yeah,
like
that's
the gates of hell.
Yeah. So this was it. So again, I thought what it was going to be, in order to keep the three sword style thing going, I thought that Gunko was going to use arrows in order to like back up Shamrock, so it was going to be like a three sword style. They're like two arrows and one sword. But then literally we saw it, and the Cerberus had three swords coming out of his mouth. It's like, there you go. As far as I'm concerned, that theory of mine is confirmed. That is going to be a Zoro fight. Three sword style versus three sword style.
We don't know. We know that Cerberus is awakened, but we don't know if it's a black blade, right?
No, it's not. Well, I think the way it was drawn, it's not a black blade. It wasn't drawn as one. It was drawn as just a normal blade, as far as I was concerned.
How would you guys feel if Zoro beats him and took the blade?
Oh,
and which blade would you replace it for?
So this is the problem. At the moment, I don't see Zoro replacing any of these blades anymore, because every one now has some emotional attachment to him.
But you're also not just going to leave Cerberus there.
Oh no, that sword I assumed that sword was just going to be reclaimed by the Gods Knights, and that they would just give it to someone else. Like when they escape, they take that and Shamrock's body away with them.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, there's also the if Zoro does fight him, I mean, I don't see Zoro wanting that blade. I think if he, to be honest, my whole thing was even back in Wano that he was going to lose the Sandai Kitetsu, and he was going to have both of Oden's swords, and
interesting.
Yeah.
And he would also have the Wado Ichimonji. So he'd have three original swords from Wano, which is where he's from. So it made the most sense to me that it would be, that would be the logical conclusion. When Momo got older and then he kept his sword, that kind of threw a wrench into my plans. But my next thought was going to be that whenever he beats the Elder, he's going to take his, I think, because he has the Sandai Kitetsu 1 or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that would be the next blade that he took instead of having.
I have a cool take on those three swords as well, interestingly, which I'll come to later.
Yeah, I know we're running low on time. I just want to, because we're talking about Gunko and Shamrock and Billingham, I want to hit you guys with one theory to end it on, and then if you guys have any quick hot takes, and then we'll see y'all next week, hopefully.
Yeah,
So I was reading into what Emu's devil fruit might be, and I came upon the Nekomata, which in Japanese lore is a supernatural two-tailed cat that walks upright, speaks the human language, can summon fire and eat fire, and control the dead, and also control people like puppets, which I think sets the foundation for this. So the idea that Emu may have mythical Zoan based on the Nekomata to me is pretty compelling. Starting off with when Sabo, tried to use fire, and I'm gonna say she consumed it, and then we see a arrow or a tail in this case pierce him, and the Nekomata is known to have pointed tails. So there's that. Also, it got me thinking about the Gorosei being almost like necromancy puppets that he controls, and that's why like Saturn was like, please no, don't, like I'm not ready to go. It also makes me think about Gunko, and what if, what if he's using her as a puppet, brought her back. It's what it also does for me is that the connection, like if Carrot or another mink ends up having some link to like the Nekomata idea, like just tying Zoan lineage factors, I think like prior to us finding out his devil fruit would really speak loads to this theory.
Yeah, speak volumes.
Do you think that there's any basis that you could see this? Do you have any quick idea of what you've thought about his devil fruit or what it could be based off of? How would you feel about it being this?
Taku, go ahead.
No, I actually want you to go. I have something afterwards about that I want to save for talking about Emu.
Same here. So I'll just quickly then. So as like a teaser for next time, my one has always been that Emu has the demon fruit model Lucifer, and that the reason they were able to eat
my dog
fire
sorry, but my dog just looked up here because her name is Lucifer D. So she did hear you.
That's exactly what I think it is. I think it's the Lucifer devil fruit, because like Luffy as Nika has a very Jesus-y vibe. You know, he died and was born again, that sort of stuff. And I think that'd be really cool to have. I don't know if you've watched the original Disney movie Fantasia, where it's like that big demon at the end, basically versus a cartoon character versus this wizard. And it's going to be that sort of way. Like that's why the arrow we see is a pointed devil tail.
I just think that listen, personally, I understand that, I see that it has legs, but I feel like that's such a cop out. Like devil
again, I like I said, there's loads more. I've got loads more stuff that I know you'll really like, but it takes a while to get into.
Like, and part of the reason, like the line about Emu sensing Joy Boy's haki through the Gorosei because they were connected to Emu is like a pretty terrifying implication of how vast like his reach might be by controlling them.
Like again, this is my thing, is the fact that I won't go into it, but my theory with Emu, because it's a mythical Zoan, the mythical power is to make unbreakable deals, like literally deals with the devil, where if you go against it, you instantly die. There's nothing you can do. Your haki doesn't matter. Your strength doesn't matter. It's the same way as I really want Bartolomeo's barrier to literally be an unbreakable barrier, because if it later on is saying that strong characters can break, that devil fruit becomes meaningless. Like I like some things in One Piece to be ironclad rules. Like if you are knocked into the water and you're a Devil Fruit user, you become an anchor. You can't move. I don't ever want there to be a character that can bypass these sort of rules in One Piece. Like I want them to be
Like
set
Brooke?
rules for a reason.
All right, Taku, let's hear it. And,
Okay, so I think the Nekomata thing, it holds a pretty decent amount of weight, and there's so many people that have seen like Umibozu and things like that where they think, and things like that. I'm fine with any sort of like a yokai type mythology. I think that you're kind of spot on, sort of with like the necromancy type thing. I think it's almost like the way I described it in a TikTok that I did was that Imu is the king in black, and all of the Gorosei and God's Knights are the symbiotes that the king in black sends out to, see other planets that he should take over. And the reason why I use symbiote is because a lot of symbiotes get hurt and they just reform back together like the Gorosei. And they all have similarly almost a hive mind in which the king in black can spy on them and hear the things that they're hearing and dealing with and stuff like that. But the king in black can't like leave the symbiotic planet until he's like fully freed. And I think that that's the same with Imu. That's why Imu doesn't move from Marie-Joie. He or she, I think it's a she, is stuck there. And I believe that it very much imitates like the King in Black's kind of thing, because the King in Black also comes and pretty much kills a ton of people in the final war with the Avengers and everything like that. Like,
oh, you're talking about Null, that's it.
Yes.
That
King of Black. Yep.
Yeah. So I believe that that's a more apt thing. And also, Null can basically take away the powers of a symbiote. And that's exactly what she did to Saturn. And the ability to probably gift those to for Garland is well within her power as well, similar to passing on a symbiote from one person to the next. Which is why I think that Gunko has a piece of Imu's power. That's why the arrows look the same from the Vector versus what Imu did to Sabo. And the reason why I think it's a her is because I think that Imu, was swapped with Lily. Body. And I think the reason for that is because Lily double-crossed Imu of Nerona when they formed the world government, because Lily had the Ope no Mi and swapped their hearts and was able to make it so that he is forever stuck in her body.
The only problem to that is the fact that, remember, Law mentions that even if, because it's on Punk Hazard, they say that even if he wouldn't have switched them back, eventually it wears off. It doesn't last forever.
So that was before. I don't remember seeing that, but I also think that there's the possibility that when they swapped, it was because Imu obviously didn't have their haki out, because he wasn't able to shamble as Big Mom or Kaido because of their haki. I think that they were meeting as friends, and when he was able to swap, what happened is Imu got so mad that he still had his Devil Fruit power, and basically every part of him was swapped into that, and then he ended up killing his regular body, so he had nowhere to go back.
Nothing to switch back to. That's perfect. That's perfect.
Yeah. So that was actually be my hot take, basically, that I left off on before I let you guys hit yours, is that I think that the Opie Opie no Mi is going to play a huge part in the end, and I believe that it is also one of the fruits that the government is looking for just as much as the Model Mica.
Oh yeah, well they were going to pay 5 billion berry for it. They were going to pay
Yeah.
nearly the same thing as Rogers bounty. They were going to pay just for that fruit.
Exactly. And like why, like it would make sense if like their like overlord needed it.
So my thing on Emu, which again we'll do next time, it does have to do with the Ope Ope, but in a different way. And you're saying female. I think they're a child. I think they're a
Oh,
child. Yeah.
boo, boo.
No. A
That's
child's
minus.
no. So a child's body that was given the eternal youth surgery, so they physically cannot age. They are stuck being a child. And there's a scene in the manga long time back when we first see Emu sitting on the throne. They actually show them kicking their legs because their feet don't touch the floor, which is exactly the sort of thing. Like when you've got little kids and you put them in a big chair and
Yeah.
their feet that they swing their legs back and forth because their feet aren't touching the floor. I think it's that. It's there's what's the name of the children's books? The Gruffalo. So you know the Gruffalo series?
No, we
No?
know Dr. Seuss. We're Americans.
Okay, so basically it's this thing, and there's a little kid and he's out with these monsters, and these monsters really looked like the same yokai models that the Gurusei were based on. And this kid, he's a child forever. He doesn't grow up. He doesn't age. Almost like a Peter Pan style thing. But I think that Emu wants to grow up, and that the modulated voice we are hearing, they're doing it themselves using technology because they don't like having a little child's voice. That's where you get like that robotic voice from. They're doing it intentionally because they detest the fact that they are stuck being a child, and that similarly, like they obviously want the Ope no Mi for immortality, but also so that they can undo it temporarily, so he can get an adult body and then make himself immortal again.
So I actually I wouldn't hate that, but I also think that the same could be said for being stuck in Lily's body, because and the reason why I think they want the Ope Ope no Mi is because what happened was he after he killed Lily in his body, the fruit was reincarnated and he gave it to someone else who eventually awakened it and made sure that the body that he was in, which was Lily's, had the eternal youth surgery. And he hasn't found a suitable like candidate for his new body, and they haven't gotten the Ope Ope no Mi back yet. So they like kept trying to find it, similar to the Nika fruit, and was never able to get it and give it to one of their slaves or one of their people to awaken it and then use it.
Cool.
Yeah. Next week, I definitely want us to dive in on the Ope Ope no Mi more, because I do have a lot of different scenarios.
Yeah, I've got the same here. So many.
I could even just see Law giving his life to make, like, what if Emu does have it and is invincible and like just
gives his life to undo it.
To undo it,
Yeah.
so Luffy can beat him, or Emu kills Luffy and gives it to bring Luffy back. Like, I could see the mass. Like, I'm not saying I love either of them, but like that would be the biggest cliffhanger in manga anime history if like a chapter ended with Luffy dying.
I've always actually thought that I don't ever think Law will use that immortality surgery on anyone.
I know, because of Corazon.
Exactly,
I know.
Corazon. It goes against Corazon's wishes. I think that what will probably happen is Luffy will be near death. Law will offer to do it, and Luffy will say no. And Luffy will use the exact same phrase to Law that Corazon did before Corazon died. It's like no, your life is important. You can't give up your life for me. And then, like I said, and then it just ends that way. I would much prefer that as like what is it, Chekhov's gun. I don't ever want
Yeah.
Law to think that
Yeah.
his life is worth less than somebody else's.
Yeah,
No,
and
but
we
maybe
get.
go on.
Well, I was going to say, when it comes to Chekhov's gun, it's like if something is introduced in the story, then there has to be a reason for it, and then it has to be shown. I think the reason why it was introduced was to show that the Gorosei are these, or Emu is this immortal person. They've been living for so long. Like, I don't think that it's necessary that Law ever sacrifices himself for something like that, because to me, it really goes against Corazone's wishes. It goes against Law's character. It goes against a lot of things that have
But
been
remember,
established.
Law was also supposed to be the one that died, and Kid was supposed to be the one that's living.
Yeah.
So there's so many possibilities.
So many.
And I think, like, listen, I'm a log blazer, so I'm so happy that we're ending here. We can pick it up here next week. I'm NYC Anime Nerd on all platforms. If you want to find Nerd Taku, it's at what's your on IG and YouTube, and
it's at Nerd Taku on everything. I think there's some numbers on my YouTube, but if you type in Nerd Taku in the search, you'll find me. I'm like one of the only channels.
He'll be tagged in the video anyways. The only place you can find Broker is in the TOPT chat. So
and here.
Yeah, and here now. So if you don't know, you better find out. And we'll see you guys next week.
Much love, guys.
Jonah.
What? Oh, sweet. There we go.